All right, everybody. I'm going to be breaking down the different character studies that you can play in Flintlock and Fog. Now, there's six in total, and the study is basically the same thing as a character class. The way D&D does Paladin and Barbarian and Wizard, that's what these are. But these are broken down and correlated to the Victorian era, especially in London this time period. So all your characters that you can choose to play through correlate to that time period. Some of them are similar and some of them are not. I'm going to go through and break down each one. That way, you get a feel for like, well, before you play the game, you get an understanding of what each character study is and how they work and how they function and the direction that they go, to kind of help you move along and to kind of give you a feel of what kind of character you think you'd like to play as. Um, we're going to start with the most notable in that time period. It's the study of investigation. This one's pretty easy to understand. It's basically a Sherlock archetype. It's most notable in that time period. When I think of Victorian era, I think Sherlock. And so we start off with that one. This character study is the easiest for anyone who's ever started to play. Maybe they've never played D&D or they're starting the game off. They're not quite sure what to do. This is the easiest character to play. And the reason behind that is because this character is a bit of a jack of all trades, very similar to how Sherlock is. Um, it dabbles in each of the other particular studies. It's not a master of any of them. It just pulls little pieces from each one to kind of make a really well-rounded character. If you're playing a quest with only one player and they're running through, this is a great character to have because you can pretty much do a little bit of all the others in this. The only thing about the investigation study that's really prominent is it's built for you to use your mind a lot to get through situations, a lot of problem solving. And so in social situations, your ability to persuade is high, your ability to bluff is high, and your ability to solve and deduce situations is also high. All of your abilities and your weaponry are pretty much open to the gamut. You can be really good at unarmed and martial arts, or you can be really good with guns. Maybe you don't really want to play with those. You only want to play with mind and psychological effects. All of these are available to this character. So if you're new or you're not sure exactly what you want to play as, this would probably be the best character to start off with because it's so rounded and it kind of gives you a feel of all the others. So that's your first character study is study of investigation. All right, your next one is probably your other major archetype at that time. The next step down, which is a bit of a scientist, what we think of like a mad scientist, like a Dr. Jekyll or Frankenstein, that particular kind of scientist. The cool thing about the Victorian era is this was a time when a lot of medicines were being developed. New science was coming out left and right and mixed in with a lot of stuff that wasn't real, but people weren't sure about, like snake oils and stuff like that. So this character is probably one of the more difficult characters to play as because it's the most complicated. And the best part, this would probably be most inclined to like if you're playing D&D, like a cleric, someone who heals. But I didn't want the person. I didn't want this person who playing in a group to only be a healer. Science is great because you are the best at healing people in your group, but you're also really good at doing damage to your foes. Also solving problems in a very unique way because you know science. Now, all of the abilities and skills function around your unique game style. And when I say unique, I mean you're not going to normally be running in with guns a blazing. You're going to find new ways to take out foes, to solve problems, to dissolve locks through chemicals and science. Uh, I've built in crafting in this, and this character is great for crafting, finding recipes, learning recipes, and developing really unique ways to move through quests and move through the gameplay. Of course, your character will most likely be a healer of the group because you'll be the best at it. But I don't want you to feel like that's all you're there for, to stand in the back and bandage everybody up as they do all the fun stuff. So I wanted to make this character unique in that way where you are the healer, but you also do a ton of damage, but in a very unique way. Again, it's science. It's very heady. Your learn skills are very high. Your spot, your search, finding materials, looting, all that stuff is going to be a major mainstay for this particular kind of character because throughout it you're going to learn to develop your own chemicals, maybe your own weapons and crafting. So if you play video games and you love to just craft items, this might be a fun character for you, um, for you to play. And also you get to do a lot of cool stuff that no one else can do, so it's very unique in that ability. um, think as you develop your character, think mad scientist. It's kind of where I was going with that, that particular archetype. All right, the next one is probably the next third down archetype of that time period, and it's the study of spiritualism. Now, spiritualism was really big in that day and age. Arthur Conan Doyle was a big fan of spiritualism. The guy who wrote Sherlock. That was a big thing. In any horror movie, even if it's modern day, there's always a flashback to the Victorian era where they're sitting around a table with a crystal ball and they're trying to speak to the dead. That's basically what spiritualism was back then. And it might be the closest thing to a wizard that I have in this game. And I say wizard because there's a lot of play in it that seems fun. It's probably the most fantastic character to play in the game. So if you were like you play games and you're like, I like to cast spells and be a wizard and do those types of things, this will be the character you're going to want to play as. Um, his character is also very heady. Not a lot of weaponry, other than maybe blades. Using a lot of blades, a lot of knives, a lot of daggers, things like that. But it's also going to use a lot of head knowledge to move through the game. Now, being spiritualism, this is where it gets fun for me, but might be slightly complicated. Whereas it's very similar to a magician back in the day, uh, you weren't sure if these people were actually talking to the dead or they're just getting you for your money. And so I built this character to be a little bit of a mix of both, where you're not quite sure if they're doing something supernatural or they're just really good at psychology, sleight of hand. And so all of your character abilities function like a psychological movement, but there's a lot of things in there like hex bags, a little bit of voodoo, just to kind of give your character a little bit of mystery behind it. This is probably the most mysterious character for you to play. Also, one of the more interesting because you are going to move through social situations with a lot of persuade, a lot of bluff, a lot of mind trickery, along with really affecting people's core stats. So when you're in a battle, you're going to be there. You're also healing and protecting. A lot of curses, a lot of blessings, things like that. Now, where this character does develop later on in the game, the plan is in that time period, it wasn't just spiritualism, there's a lot of religious concepts as well. I built those in too. So if you want to veer off into the occult, and you can do that later down the line, or if you want to veer off into maybe a religious vocation, you can do that too. So this one has a great future ahead of it. It's also one of the more complicated characters to play, kind of like your scientist. It functions a lot like a scientist, a lot of crafting involved with this, but mostly if you're in a social situation and instead of trying to find your way out of a room, you got to convince someone to let you out. This character is going to be great for that. Um, Again, like the investigator pulls a little bit of this as well. They both use psychological attacks on people to kind of demean them, lower their stats, make them easier to fight, or maybe convince them altogether just to lay down their weapons and give up. That's this type of character. So if you like that kind of thing, you're going to want to go for the character in spiritualism, that study. Now, our next study is pretty basic, easy, and this is a fun one. So, if you were, you play your D&Ds or your World of Warcrafts, and you were always the sneaky type, the rogue, that's this character study crime. Now, it's not just that because the Victorian era wasn't always just about sneaking around in the shadows and pickpocketing, although this is involved and a ton of that's involved. The crime character study has a lot to do with getting your way, but doing it by breaking the rules. A ton of your skills are built up in bluff. You want a lot of persuade. You want to have the gift of gab, but you also want to be super mysterious, move from shadow, and pretty much do what you want. It also blends in with a lot of the Peaky Blinders feel of criminal. So when I say criminal, I don't just mean like a sneaking around, small types are always trying to pickpocket or pick locks. I'm talking about like a mobster style study as well. So you got a lot of hand to hand fighting you're good at, blades you're fighting you're good at, but also a lot of weaponry, small pistols, large rifles. All these things are built into this character too, because when you play this character, you're going to want to think, yeah, you're a part of a group, you're trying to get somewhere, but you're also a little bit in it for yourself. And so a lot of this character revolves around those things. So if you're the kind of person that loves fighting people and slaying orcs in a cavern, but you stop and loot every single body, this is the one you're going to want to play because that's what it's built around. If you're like, hey, I sure could beat that guy and take his weapon, or I can just pickpocket it, all of his stuff. This is the type of character you're going to play. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty fun character, and pretty basic and easy as well. So that's your other character type. Now the next study is this one's fairly basic too, and if I was to correlate this with any kind of your D&Ds, it would be more like your barbarian, your warrior, that particular type of character. It's a study of military. The reason I added this is because I personally love to play characters like this because it's just bang bang shoot shoot. And some people just really love that, me included. So I wanted to add a character that was really just built around not a lot of head knowledge. Shoot first, ask questions later. If you were the kind of person who are like, I don't really want to have to think about how I'm gonna convince this person to let me in that room. I just want to, you know, walk over their bodies to get there. This is the type of character you're gonna want to do. They're all their skills are not really built up except for their weapon proficiency. So are they good at persuading? Well, kind of. With a gun in their hand. Are they good at bluffing? They don't need to. Are they good at searching? Yeah, it's easy to search dead bodies. Are they good at, all the skills that you normally would with people that are smart with head knowledge? You're not going to need any of that. You're going to dump all your stats into just beefing up your character and finding the best weapons and the quickest reloads and doing the most damage. That's your character military. Super simple, super easy. You're a tank. You're basically a tank in the group. Um, you're not really there to figure out how to solve something. You're there just to solve it. Solve it. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's that character. And I think this is our last the last character. That's six, right? Did I go through all of them? Yeah. So our last archetype, and this one's a little bit more complicated, but again, similar to the military, is a study of martial arts. Now, when you think martial arts, you can think multiple different things. In the Victorian era, it meant a lot of different things. London in this time period was very diverse, tons of different kinds of people in this. And so you could have people that came from a martial arts background, Brazil, Japan, Korea, things like that. And that works well too. But you also had your hardcore Irish and gypsy types that were boxing and underground boxing matches. That's martial arts as well. So I include that into this type of character. Your main function is going to be unarmed. You're going to drop all your stats in unarmed, and you're going to bully your way out of things most likely without using a ton of weaponry. But the cool thing about the martial arts skill is you're very in tune to your body and how things function. So you heal pretty well. You can take a punch real easy. It's similar to the military. You're a bit of a tank, but you're a little bit more spiritual in that sense. So there's a few abilities there that the tanks don't have because you're one with yourself uh in that aspect. You're also really good in any situation. If you drop your gun, someone tries to disarm you, you run out of ammo, none of that's going to bother you because your fists are your weapons. And the cool thing about this particular character is because I developed the game to have a whole unarmed unique style of fighting. Every character can do things like jab and hit and punch, and they all do different damage according to what your strength is. But as this character develops, it gets a little bit more less like Irish boxing matches and more like hidden tiger flying dragon kind of thing. And so you get combos and moves and jumping kicks and stuff like that. So this character has a fun development as it goes along, and you can also develop it into be a little bit more heady. Start studying other languages, reading other books, learning how to use your mind more to enhance your unarmed abilities instead of just, fighting people in a rowdy pub and just picking fights with everybody unarmed. The weapon style of this is really just blade or blunt. Your character starting off gets a wooden staff just for fun. I thought that was unique. None of the other characters really have this particular kind of gameplay, and you don't really use unarmed unless you're in a jam, except for this character prefers it. So those are your six archetype character studies that you get to pick. You get to pick one when you start the game off. Again, as you level up, there's I think I'm going to put level 10. They're going to branch off into specific categories. So it's not just this is your style character all the way up. When you hit a higher level like 10, it's going to branch into something a little bit more specific to that character. But again, we're in beta test mode right now. This is just an introduction to what the types of characters you have to choose from to play. And again, each one of them, I have it set up to where you can kind of pick the abilities as you level. So you can really define your character and its stats and the things you want to pour in to make your character develop as you go along. So you're not just pigeonholed into a stereotype. That was the one thing I didn't want to happen when you pick your character. I didn't want you to just feel like, well, I picked the guy in martial arts so I can never pick up a gun. Nope. If you pick martial arts and you're like, well, this stinks, I don't want to punch people, I want to shoot them, you can dump all your stats into guns. You'll do just as fine as everybody else. You'll just be when their ammo runs out, you'll be at a benefit. All right, guys, those are the different character studies. Again, these are kind of similar to your D&Ds, like your paladins, your wizards, your barbarians, that kind of thing. But in this game, it's all set in this particular era. So these studies and these character types correlate to this time period. And again, it's not just going to be London. I built this to be able to expand out throughout the whole world. So if you're like, I really want to be a cowboy in the Wild West, you might want to pick a military. That might be a kind of character. Investigator will work out well too. So sky's the limit with this game. So I want to make sure I built a foundation of good, solid archetypes for people to begin with, learn that, and then as it develops, get a little bit more specific and a little bit more rad. So those are your study types. Again, if you want to check out more videos, learn more about the game, become a beta tester, you can go to flintlockandfog.com, sign up, be a part of the game as it's being developed. Again, the player manual's out now. It's just the beta test version. It's just the beginning. When I say ground level, I mean really ground level. You can be a part of that. You can start playing this with your friends, maybe even start writing your own quests. I'll help you with that as well as the game develops. So go be a part of it. Go to flintlockandfog.com. Thanks for watching this video.